ahead. Spoilers ahead.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of I Made from TV Love You. This week, we're looking at a 1997 adaptation of a 1967 cartoon, George of the Jungle, the follow-up creation from the creator of Rocky and Bullwinkle, Jay Ward, which was sadly not as successful as its predecessor. I was going to say Predator, despite containing a lot of the talent from the former. More on that in a bit. But in 1997, Disney decided that this not exactly classic cartoon parody of Tarzan needed a live-action movie. This predated the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, see our review of the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, by 3 years and was considerably more of a financial success. But did it capture that Jay Ward-esque nature of the original? Is there anything more to this movie than seeing Brendan Fraser in nothing but a loincloth? Woohoo! Let's find out. I'm your host, the Archduke of the Blackboard Jungle, Max Levine, and over there is the King of the Forest, Mike Luce.
I am?
Yep.
I live in the suburbs. There's a tree outside. I guess that's a
There
forest.
You go. You're to survey your domain.
Okay. Should I pee on it?
Yes. Yes, you should. Daily.
Wow.
Possibly hourly if you drink enough water.
King of the forest equals guy who pees on tree in backyard. Got it.
Yep. Well done. Edgar Rice Burroughs would be proud.
Sure.
Let us start with last week's poll question.
Oh, would you tell us what last week's poll question was?
I think I won't.
Oh. It will make it harder to understand the answers, but whatever.
Last week's poll question, what movie do you just love, or at least really enjoy, but everyone else seems to, well, not? And wow, did we get a bunch of answers on this. Well done, all of you. Aaron Perez, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. No doubt for Donald Trump's great performance.
It's the last great performance he had. Oops! Did I say something political? I'm sorry.
Oh,
we just
you're going to get us
censored.
We've been canceled and stuff. Regan McStravick said, Toys. Wow, that's actually pretty obscure. Aside from being one of the greatest films ever, wow. In terms of production design, this film, if recognized for its allegorical content, which apparently went over most people's heads, I think I must have been one of them, I don't know what the allegorical content was tremendously powerful. Robin Williams was fine, but his presence was a distraction from what might have been a better understood film with different casting. That is a really bold choice, considering not only is this a movie most people don't see, but he's actually saying that Robin Williams was a problem with it when he was the big name.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with him. I often found Robin Williams to be a problem for that reason. And in no way is Regan actually my cousin. Oops!
No, indeed.
Yeah, not at all.
And speaking of people who share Mike's gene pool,
here we go.
Val says, this was a tough one for me because for every one of my favorite movies, I can think of at least one person who likes it. A movie I adore and have seen no less than 30 times that other people are meh on is Twister. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A movie I have a soft spot for, but not on the top 20, and I actually watched recently that no one I know likes is Thank God It's Friday. I don't think I even know that movie.
It was a disco film.
Oh, Lord, it just came flooding back. Oh.
Like last night's bouillabaisse.
Oh, God, I'm back in Nam. Oh, God. Yeah, it's dumb and bad and stuff, but, well, there it is. For my assistant, Stephen, his instant answer was the Twilight Saga. Val, I say this for your own good, fire him immediately.
Don't be mean.
But as she says, there is no accounting for taste.
I think there's roller skates in Thank God It's Friday.
That one. Took place in a roller disco, didn't it?
I think so, and I honestly believe that's where we got the whole TGIF thing from. I could be wrong, but I think it's from that that wonderfully underappreciated film. Thank you.
All right, clearly this movie had a lot more cultural weight than we thought. Angelo Patsalis, Stealing Beauty, and Agora.
Mm-mm.
Stealing Beauty, I've heard of. Agora, I don't know.
No. But
he also, yes. George Saulnier, Terry Gilliam's Tideland. It's just great. I don't know that one at all.
Me either.
And I honestly enjoy Zardoz. It's really interesting to me. Good on you, George.
I've seen Zardoz twice on the big screen, and the first time I was like, huh? And it has a sort of twist that has to do with the title, and like a candy corn lover, the next time I saw it on a big screen, I utterly forgot the twist of the title, and so when it came again, I was like, oh, I get it. I don't like it. But hey, if you like the film, more power to you. That's fine. Thanks, George.
Sure. Thank you, George. From Dave.
Dave.
He says, Sanjuro. That's interesting. For some reason, everyone likes Yojimbo, which is the one that came before it. Sanjuro is the sequel, which drags and has less character. Huh. It's funny, I've seen both. I remember Yojimbo much better than I remember Sanjuro, but I've also seen it more recently.
Now, to be fair, Dave is fluent in Japanese, so he probably watches them with the subtitles off, and there's probably stuff he gets we don't. I love Yojimbo.
Well,
I think Yojimbo is a terrific film.
Yeah.
But, okay. Maybe I should check out Sanjuro.
Jamie Kleinert says, The Red Violin.
Oh, yeah.
I think that format puts a lot of people off. I don't mind the subtitles at all, having watched a lot of anime and in my college days, and of course music as the main subject really resonates with me, pun only somewhat intended.
Yeah, she's a music teacher.
Jamie, that's going to cost you $3 bumpy bucks.
Oh, yeah,
yep,
it's got Samuel L. Jackson in it. I remember seeing it in the theater when it came out. It was back like the late 90s, early 2000s, when even in the multiplexes, you would occasionally get something interesting like Run Lola Run or Red Violin or something. So, yeah.
Never saw it. Huh. Nick Gasparoni says, Galaxy Quest. I don't think the movie got much attention when it came out, but it's a wonderful parody and homage to Star Trek and similar sci-fi films. I think most people who've seen it really like it.
I think he might be right, though. I don't think it did particularly well. It was one of those films.
No, when it first came out, it was a much more of a hit on home video.
Yeah.
I also like the 2005 Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie, though that seems to have rather meh reviews from a lot of people. Yeah, I got to go with meh. Despite a really good cast and great source material, I
have to wonder.
Yeah, it kind of was meh.
I have to wonder if his reaction to the film comes from the fact that that's the first version he's seen of Hitchhiker's Guide.
Oh,
because you and I heard the radio show when it came out in 82 or 81, I can't remember which.
Saw the TV show too.
Yeah, the TV show, which had a lot of the actors from the radio show, was okay. But it suffered from the 80s BBC. We only have $10. Maybe we can put on a show who has a farm.
It all looked like a Doctor Who set. Yeah. Elizabeth Zielinski, Legally Blonde. Oh, I watch it before every semester of school, and there's a Netflix movie called Leap. Leap. So corny, but I love the story so much. Okay, I thought Legally Blonde was pretty popular, but hell, they made a Broadway musical out of it.
Did they?
They did. I think it's still running.
Oh, yeah, it seems to make a Broadway musical out of anything. See last week's show.
Kelly Cooper says, a lot of people like to bash it, but I unironically love Hudson Hawk.
Yes!
Now, what kind of fool would say something would like that ridiculous movie? I cannot imagine what kind of complete clod living somewhere in the Midwest would enjoy that movie.
And I didn't even slip her 10 bumpy bucks to say that.
Every time I hear a version of Swinging on a Star, I smile and think about that movie, except where Andy McDowell chirps like a dolphin. I can skip that part. That part actually kind of cracks me up when I see it.
Me too. I like that part. We'll get to this. This is.
Matt Reisman, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Okay, Richard Tatum agrees. Also says The Adventures of Baron Munchausen and Dune. I assume he means the Dino De Horrendous version one. Yeah. Not the one with, William Hurt.
No. So Munchausen, did you see Munchausen when it came out?
I did.
I thought it was really interesting. Like, I had never seen a fairy tale film quite like that. Apparently, one of the problems was that he literally spent way too much money, and there was a bunch of stuff that had to be toned down or something. Not that I could notice, because it was very lavish.
Yeah. No, it looked wonderful, and the characterizations were really cool, the performances. I just didn't feel it hung together.
I don't remember it that well because I literally saw it when it came out, and I think that's the last time I saw it. But I remember liking it.
Charles Forsyth says Gummo, and no, that is not the fifth Marx Brothers movie, as Mike asked. Apparently, it's one of Harmony Korine's difficult to watch movies. I don't know who that is.
Me neither.
Now I'm kind of intrigued.
Yeah.
Chuck Mock points out, I have a fondness for Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins, based on the Destroyer series of books that neither Max Levine nor I have ever heard of, let alone read or owned. And he's right. I have never read or owned any of the Destroyer books. I don't know who Remo Williams or Chun are. Nope, no idea.
And you lie! I'm taking back my bumpy bucks. Is that one of those things like the Destroyer? I mean, like the Matt Helm series where there's like 400,000 of them?
At least. Yes, only the Destroyer is almost like a comic book, except in novel form. It's, martial arts raised to the point of magic, and it's also really problematic if you read it now. It's very dated, and some of it is unbelievably racist.
That's a series that used to be in a subgenre that has long since disappeared from the bookstores. It was literally a section called Men's Adventure, and you would have Matt Helm, and you would have the Destroyer.
There were all those guys, like, what was it, the Regulator, the Executioner.
Rebulator.
I don't remember.
It's the Tabulator. That's what we're looking for.
They started making up names.
Yeah, but it was all these series. And the funny thing is, of course, when I was a kid, I didn't think about this because what did I know about Men's Adventure? Basically, it was, these are romances for guys. Because it's like, there were hundreds of them, like literally.
It's kind of guy porn.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say that most porn is guy porn, but this is kind of guy literary porn.
Yeah, and that section has long since I think the last time I saw it was in the 70s, but yes, Men's Adventure. Yeah. It's like, it's okay, guys, you can read.
It's not manly. Why should we read when we can be out uprooting trees?
What best way to eat this, raw or on fire? Okay.
And finally, Haley Paulson writes, I know I'm not entirely alone in this one, but I unironically enjoy Van Helsing. Is it good? Meh. Is it something I'll stop and watch anytime I see it on? Absolutely. And I know Mike's right there with you.
I really do enjoy Van Helsing. I don't know why. There is so many things in that film that I complain about in other films and point my finger and go, wrong, bad, no. And some reason for Van Helsing, I don't know why, but I give it a pass. It's like Hudson Hawk. It's like the writing on Hudson Hawk is not good. It is not a well-told, badly done story. It has some very questionable performances in it. I don't think it's anybody, except mine, favorite Bruce Willis film. And yet, we actually do have one more answer. I think it came in this morning. It's on the website.
Okay.
I don't know if you caught it. It's from Vince, our frozen-footed Canadian friend.
Yep, missed it. Sorry, Vince.
That's okay. He said, a recent film I love and think is just super fun and well done is John Carter. The effects are great. I thought the story moved along its tropes in any way. Seemed fresh enough, but so many people just think they were supposed to hate it because it bombed at the box office when I found it quite charming. End quote. I only had one word for John Carter, really, just one thing to say. Dull.
What was that? I saw it in the theater. I remember nothing except I think Willem Dafoe is the voice of Tars Tarkas.
Okay.
Yeah. And once again, a character less disturbing to look at than Willem Dafoe actually is.
I think it was fairly, what's the word?
I think it was very generic.
I'm sorry?
Generic.
No, well, I think it was fairly faithful to the original series. There's another series that probably could go into Men's Adventure. Because there was a bunch of John Carter books. John Carter, Steam Cleaner of Mars, John Carter, Taxi Driver of Mars. And I just found it really uninteresting. But hey, Vince, if you found something cool with it, good for you. We are not about dissing people for liking movies that we don't care for, so awesome.
Except each other.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
So, Mike, what's your movie that you love? And Everyone else is meh.
I just told you two of them, Van Helsing and Hudson Hawk. I adore Hudson Hawk, and as Haley said, I am unironically in love with that film. I don't know why. I don't like Bruce Willis. I like him in two films, this and Fifth Element, and that's it. Otherwise, I can't stand him. Richard E. Grant, I think, would really prefer that this performance was never remembered by anybody. I don't think, what's her name? Well, Andy McDowell, I think, has as good a time as she can with it. I don't know. It makes me laugh. It's goofy and stupid. And Van Helsing, it's literally Stephen Summers, I guess his name is, the guy who did The Mummy. Like he basically is like, oh, you want me to turn this up? I can turn this up. And he turns everything up in that film. It's got Hugh Jackman, who, quite honestly, I don't think if you had the enthusiasm that he had in that film that it would have worked. But he's the guy who plays Dracula is over the top. We've got Benny back from The Money, who's doing a fun job. It's just dumb, but it is fun. How about you?
I'd have to go with Strange Brew, the Bob and Doug McKenzie movie.
Okay.
I know it's not a great movie. I know most people don't even watch it anymore. Most people don't even know the characters from Second City TV anymore. But I will always have a soft spot for that movie, and I just really enjoy it.
Cool. Well, how can people tell us about their answers? Oh, we're going to keep that till the end of the show, aren't we?
That's a big secret. Only those with the stamina and endurance to listen to the entire episode, or, move the slider all the way to the end. We'll find out.
Don't tell them that! But they must have a question to answer. What might that question be?
Well, they must answer me these questions 3.
One.
Yeah, the other side they see.
One.
Now, for next week, what fictional cinematic character would you most like to have a conversation with, say, over lunch or over drinks? And I mean fictional. No, like cheating and going for somebody from a biopic.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
And you'll hear yourself on the show and get bumpy bucks galore, the cryptocurrency that's good for... So what about the trivia in this film, Max?
There's some.
Oh.
Not a ton, but there's some.
The show.
The budget for this was $55 million. The worldwide gross, $175 million.
Really?
Really. This was a big success.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, we all remember the sequel.
George of the Jungle 2.
Yeah. There was one.
There was no Brendan
6
Fraser.
years. There was no. Yep. 6 years later, no Brendan Fraser, no Leslie Mann.
6 years.
No money. Yep. Wasn't until 2003.
That's a vote of confidence.
Yeah, ain't it though? This based on the J. Ward Bill Scott cartoon that ran from 1967 through 1967. Yeah, there were only 17 episodes made for this show.
Oops.
Despite this great team and the presence of a lot of J. Ward voice actor favorites like June Foray, Paul Frees, and Dawes Butler. George is based, on a parody of Tarzan, but also on a cartoon characterization of a guy named George Eiferman, who was Mr. America, Mr. Universe, and in the IFBB Hall of Fame. This cartoon, by the way, was drawn by some unknown cook on a minesweeper in the Navy during World War II.
Oh.
Yeah, Jay liked the picture, and he used it as the basis for George of the Jungle. George was also joined by 2 other characters. He was George of the Jungle and Friends or some such. In their own cartoons, Tom Slick and Super Chicken, who I'm sure you all remember.
No.
Yeah, I remember these cartoons vaguely. I saw them at the time. Let's face it, the thing most people remember about George of the Jungle is the theme song. And the intro is apparently every timpani player in every school band's favorite. That boom, 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 boom.
I get a solo!
Yep. By the way, there is a bit of something about the theme song I would like to clear up. Mike pointed this out to me. I did not know this, but I've confirmed it. Many of us baby boomers were confused by the lyric, "Away he'll schlep on his elephant shep." Well, first of all, why is a jungle man using Yiddish? But, something and Ursula stay in step. In the cartoon, you see an animated version of George's mate Ursula split into two people. They're the same person moving in sync. And the line sounds like, while Bella and Ursula stay in step. That is what I always thought it was. It is not. The line is, and it never makes sense because there's no character in there named Bella. In the pilot, by the way, Ursula is called Jane. I guess that was too obvious. No, the line is fella with an F, while Fella and Ursula stay in step, and it's because George keeps calling Ursula Fella, because George, throughout the cartoon, does not really seem to get that Ursula is a woman.
I think the one he refers to her as that guy who never shaves.
Yeah. They make a little of that in the movie, but he catches on a lot quicker than the cartoon does.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most impressive things about this movie is Brendan Fraser's abs, and Brendan Fraser's personal trainer for the film actually sued Fraser for not mentioning him in the credits of the movie. The trainer did not win.
Because Brendan Fraser has literally no say in that.
Yeah. Almost every element from George of the Jungle cartoon series shows up in this movie, including the never argue with the narrator line that shows up all over Jay Ward's cartoons. This movie, by the way, seeing this movie is what made Stephen Sommers decide on Brendan Fraser for the role of Rick O'Connell in The Mummy.
Oh.
It was 2 years later. The ground in the jungle was made of mashed potatoes.
Ah.
Yep.
And they were in focus.
They were. Dana Olson, who wrote the screenplay, it started out with a spec script called Gorilla Boy, which was, by the way, Olson's nickname for his son. While shopping the screenplay to the studios, he intentionally avoided Disney because he knew they owned the film rights to George of the Jungle, and he figured they wouldn't be interested in another Tarzan-type spoof. It turned out Disney didn't have a script for the movie, and were happy to look at and buy Olson's story and adapt it for George.
I see.
Now, a couple of other people did a pass on the script early. You will never guess who. Joel Hodgson and his writing partner, Nell Scoville. Joel, of course, of Mystery Science Theater. He did an early script. He added the opening cartoon sequence, and they were the first ones to make Ape talk. Now, as typical with a lot of credit arbitration, only the first writer and the last writer get on-screen credit, so we don't see Joel's name. Leslie Mann, who plays Ursula, wouldn't work on another Jay Ward movie until 2014, when she's a voice on Mr. Peabody and Sherman.
Ooh.
The animated movie. The lion that George fights with in the movie.
Which one?
were played by the same lions that starred in The Ghost of the Darkness.
Oh.
Their names were Bongo and Caesar, although, he's fighting with a large stuffed animal. The theme song, I was mistaken. I thought Weird Al Yankovic did this
So did I.
in the movie. He did not. The song is performed by the band The Presidents of the United States.
See, I figure he did a version on his album because he's like, you guys rewrote it. I'm going to do the original.
Yeah, pretty much. The President of the United States, the only song of theirs I really know is Lump,
Yep.
and I only know that because of Weird Al Yankovic's parody Gump. There was a sequel, like I say, without Fraser. Man, Fraser did go on in '99 to play another Jay Ward live-action character, Dudley Do-Right,
Oh, yeah.
which, like this movie, also had a Monty Python alum in it, Eric Idle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no one remembers that movie, and there's a reason.
See our future episode. No, we won't.
No. The movie was shockingly, it was filmed partly in San Francisco. It was not filmed in Africa. It was filmed in Hawaii. Yeah. That's pretty much it. There isn't a whole lot of trivia about this movie. There's more stuff about the cartoon itself, but we don't need to go into that.
Nah. Well, how about telling us the plot?
I think I will. George of the Jungle. Very strong fellow. George of the Jungle. I suggest you alter your trajectory, lest you impact strongly on that vegetation. Oh, dear. Lovable, incredibly ripped George, Brendan Fraser, is your basic Tarzan knockoff, raised in the jungle by apes, by one ape, where he becomes king of the jungle, despite being, in the parlance of Jay Ward's native Minneapolis, dumb as a bag of hammers. For example, George is mortally certain that his pet Shep is a dog, despite the fact that Shep shows clear signs of being a friggin' elephant. And George does not have any trouble identifying other wildlife, but he cannot get it through his head that Shep is an elephant. That just bugs me. Despite his utter inability to swing through the jungle without smashing headlong into every tree in the way, George has life figured out pretty well, until the appearance of Ursula, played by Leslie Mann, a rich white lady from America who is on safari with her jerk of a fiancé, Thomas Hayden Church, neither of whom have any business being in the jungle. Ursula ends up in danger, and George saves her. Some awkwardness occurs, as George has never seen a woman before, but the movie won't let you ignore their growing attraction. Ursula brings George back to San Francisco with her. Hijinks ensue, parents disapprove, and Abe speaks with the voice of John Cleese. Cakes get smashed, shenanigate, all leading on a rocky road, or swing, for George and Ursula towards romance and a truckload of lowbrow physical humor. Oh, and poop jokes. Lots of poop jokes. That's George of the Jungle, in a nutshell.
The lowdown. You make it sound so enticing. So I know you said earlier that you have a vague memory of, if not George himself, one of the other characters like Super Chicken or something.
Oh, no, I remember George. Yeah.
Did you watch any of the cartoons in
I
preparation?
did. I watched 3 or 4 of them.
And what did you think?
I kind of get why they weren't a big success.
Which is really surprising.
Yeah, because you can see Jay Ward is still trying to do the same clever little formulas and the weird parodies and the little in-jokes, and they just don't work.
Yeah.
Partly because there's no variation in any of it. It's all the same. George is stupid. George has to rescue something or someone. George wins through dumb luck. That's it.
Yeah.
There's none of the wit or the little twists or the cleverness of Rocky and Bullwinkle. It just seems lazy.
And it's funny because I watched, like you, I think 4 of them. Because I'd never heard of George of the Jungle until Weird Al did his version of it, and I was like, "What's that?" And okay, it was a cartoon. And of course, there was no way to look them up back then. But I was just like, "This Rocky and Bullwinkle, that was brilliant." What? And I actually, after like 3 or 4, I went back and watched some Rocky and Bullwinkle to make sure. You're like, maybe I was wrong, and maybe I didn't think. No, Rocky and Bullwinkle's hilarious. It's still funny.
Yeah,
I
holds
don't
up.
understand why more of the same in this case would be so terrible, but they're terrible.
I mean, I've seen worse.
Yeah.
But it's like when you see a bad Mel Brooks movie. It's like, anyone else did this, I think it was kind of funny. But you expect more from Jay Ward.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the things that's probably, besides Rocky and Bullwinkle, the most famous thing Jay Ward ever did were cereal commercials. He did them for Captain Crunch for a long time and for Quisp and Quake. Watching George of the Jungle is like watching a half an hour of Captain Crunch commercials.
Oh, I gotta disagree. Some of those Jay Ward Captain Crunch commercials were really funny.
I agree too. Now
clever.
I think about them. I can't figure it out. It just wasn't funny.
I think he did the King Vitaman ones too, didn't he?
He might have, yeah. But yeah, the original cartoons were just not funny. So of course,
it's really unfortunate. So this is dealing with some very weak source material.
Yeah, great choice.
And you can already tell because they take the theme song. Let's face it, is the most memorable part of the cartoon.
Yeah,
it's the thing that hung on.
Yeah.
People who've never seen the cartoon know that song.
Except they rewrote it.
They rewrote it, and they stretch it out, and they add verses, and they take away the sort of gleefulness of it.
Yeah. I thought, although the opening cartoon credit, I was like, gee, that's actually pretty good. Could the movie be that?
Bad. If they had kept it that way, it might have worked.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know who the people were who made the opening credit cartoon, but it was actually pretty fun.
By the way, did you recognize who Mr. Kwame was?
I didn't. I knew it from the credits, so I wouldn't have recognized him
that
otherwise.
Mr. Kwame is one bad mother.
Shut your mouth.
I'm just talking about Kwame.
Richard Roundtree.
Yeah, Richard Roundtree. Friggin' Shaft is in this.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because, look, Richard Roundtree, okay, no, he's not a Shakespearean actor, but he's got this great presence. He's got real charisma, and he's completely wasted in this.
Well, they allow him to sit down.
Yeah. He sits down, and he looks disgusted a lot. That's basically it.
One of my earliest notes, and this is really for the first part of the film, which is stupid. Did I say that? I didn't mean to say that. It's the, well, it's a sort of a twist. So in this case, Ursula is a explorer wannabe, and her fiance, who's not a character from the show, is this overly rich, pretentious, annoying twerp who's trying to basically get her out of there as quickly as he can so he can marry her. And then they have these supposedly Swahili guides and carriers and stuff. And the whole opening of the film with them traipsing through the quote-unquote jungle just feels really racist.
Yeah, although part of it is Lyle is being the classic ugly American.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of it is the jokes of, oh, ha, these guys actually speak English. Big joke.
Or they know what Magic Picture Box is, or...
That reminded me a little too much of the Hakawi on F Troop. When,
oh, you mean Native Americans
one of them is
played
going,
by Jewish guys? Yeah.
Magic Tick-Tock, and he's holding him a watch, and the chief takes out a better one.
But it's just like the only black characters in this film are Richard Roundtree sitting down looking disgusted with the fact that he's in this film, and the other, I don't know...
The three porters who don't have names.
And they're only there to be jokes.
Yeah.
And... yeah, you could sit there and go, well, yeah, but they're proving that they're smarter than the white guy. Yeah, but you could tell this is all written by a white guy, and it's just...
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But there's some... We'll get to this later, but Ursula's mom has a line that really doesn't work.
Which one?
It has one. It just really hasn't aged. But now I got to say, Brendan Fraser really throws himself into this. He really gets it. Yes.
Please go ahead. I shouldn't have sighed.
He's really trying as George. He's and he really got himself in good shape for it.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
My lunch was just delivered. Sorry.
A lady friend of mine was watching the movie, and once George puts on a shirt, she's like, well, they just lost me, pretty much. He said, I don't know why they're doing that. That's the best part of the movie.
It was enjoyable. If you're interested in that sort of thing, sure.
And they really do try. You can tell they're trying, admittedly kind of randomly, to make this like a cartoon with the sound effects. And they've got the J. Ward-esque narrator who is trying...
Yeah.
And it is at times almost funny, but it made me miss... This really made me miss the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie.
Which, if I remember correctly, we decided was surprisingly funny.
It actually is. It's not great, but there are parts of it, and the characterizations... Boris and Natasha in that are better than anything in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, I will get to this, they perfectly captured the effect of the cartoon. I'm going to disagree with Brendan Fraser. I agree he's putting himself into it, but I don't think even for this honestly terrible script that his acting is really working. And I don't know that that's necessarily his fault, because I thought the voice actor for George didn't work either. Like, George, no, we'll have this sort of, squeaky nasal voice for George, which is not what you'd expect. No, and it doesn't really work.
George, King of Jungle, here to help.
I mean, it's worse than that, I think, but he keeps grinning at the camera after he says his lines, and it just, the one thing I will give him huge credit for is working with all of those animals must have been a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch, and not just, most of them aren't CG. I mean, there's a bunch of guys in ape suits.
Yeah.
But he's also dealing with, monkeys and toucans, and they have to actually sit on him at points.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to work with animals.
Yeah. So I'll give him credit for that. I will, as far as the acting go in general, Richard Roundtree sits very well.
And there are some good people in this. Thomas Hayden Church is a very good actor. He's unfortunately really good at playing jerks.
I'm not even going to give him credit for that here, but go ahead.
Yeah, he doesn't... He really phones it in.
Yeah.
Most of the people do, I think. Leslie Mann, who I don't know from a lot of stuff. You would know her if you saw her. She's usually the funny friend, or she's in a lot of things like That 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah.
Or like Will Ferrell comedies. She can be very funny. They don't let her be funny in this. She's supposed to be more or less the straight man, as it were.
Yeah.
So she doesn't really get to do it. And John frigging Cleese is in this.
Well, part of it.
Well, his voice is in it. His voice, clearly he's not, we know, I can tell you from the credits, he's not in the ape suit.
And if he was smart, he never left Britain.
Yeah, I'm assuming he just was in it sounds like he was just in a sound booth somewhere and never met the actors.
Well, what's funny is that the original ape, that's the ape character's name is Ape, did have an actor, it was Paul Frees, trying to do an impression of somebody. I think he was trying to do James Mason, which was...
No, it was Ronald Coleman.
Oh, okay. It sounded a little like James Mason, which...
It did. It was
funny.
A similar accent.
Anytime, pretty much anyone doing an impersonation of James Mason in anything is just funny, because James Mason...
James Mason as Mo Howard in The Three Stooges. Larry, Curly, I'm afraid I'm going to have to strike you both in the eyes quite hard.
I wish I could do James Mason. I didn't think Cleese even worked here. For one thing, the script is terrible. The script is just awful. But I can, there's no energy from him. He's not on the set, so we never met any of these people, which I think does matter. I think actually meeting and working with your fellow actors makes a difference. And I don't blame him for not doing so. But even for John Cleese, it's like sometimes John Cleese can deliver poop, which they will do in this film, and give you a gold nugget. His appearance on Cheers. If you thought Cheers was funny in general, watch the episode with John Cleese, because that episode is funny, and you suddenly realize...
He elevates it to genius, but he also does a lot of crap.
Yeah.
As he has said, he described himself on David Letterman, oh yes, I'm a hole.
Yeah.
He does. He used to. There was a period he would do anything.
Yeah.
He would take any job, and he ended up in a lot of bad movies.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to anything. Oops, I'm giving it away. Yeah.
I hope they paid him a lot.
One of my earliest notes is, why is this live action?
Yeah. This was a thing. 2 years later, they do Dudley Do-Right as live action.
Hasn't answered my question.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no reason for this to be live action.
It does, all the energy, what there was of it, is taken out of it. All of the impossible effects they now have to do with fairly early CG and stuffed animals and such. Yeah,
the elephant really looks very uncanny valley. It's very
weird.
It's not good.
No.
Yeah, and the worst part is less than halfway through the movie, they leave the jungle and move the movie to San Francisco, and that just kind of kills it.
Yeah.
They're trying to do some of the fish out of water thing, but they don't commit to that, because George adapts way too easily to things like, clothes.
Yeah.
And dealing with cars and such. It's just like, oh, how about that?
Yeah. He actually ends up looking like a model for romance novels. And I got to say, he looks pretty damn good at it, too. Like, yes, fully clothing him in this case was a mistake. I agree with your friend there. Because he obviously did a lot of work to get that way. But he doesn't really look like it. I think he's supposed to look like a jungle man in nice clothes. And instead, he just looks like a really nice looking guy in nice clothes.
Yeah. So it's like, where did he get all that mousse and hair product in the jungle?
Never mind a comb. Or a razor. I also think, too, that it felt very much like, instead of it being an actual plot point or there was a reason for it in the story, I literally think someone said, we're out of money. We got to go. we got to go
might
back
have been.
to the city. We can film there much cheaper than Hawaii. Let's just go. And so they do.
The other problem is they keep having these subplots. There is a subplot with Lyle who gets arrested in Africa for shooting George.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ends up joining a cult or mercenaries or something. It's not clear.
Yeah.
There's a subplot where two poachers, which is a nod to the cartoon because there's always poachers in the cartoon, George in the Jungle, who are going after Ape because they discover he can talk.
Yeah.
Which really kind of messes up the joke a bit.
Those two characters just don't work at all. I don't know why they're there. They don't add anything. They're not particularly well done, or well done at all, really. And there's even one scene where they capture Ape. Oh, dear. Did you care? Because I didn't.
No, there was also no sense of strain. There was no sense of tension.
No, because
even the narrator tells us this is the sort of movie where nobody dies, they just get big boo-boos.
Yeah, and then the next thing we know, literally he's captured. He says something, I don't even remember exactly how, but he says something to a monkey, and then the next thing we have ninja gorillas, and the plot complication is just gone. Like you see gorillas with headbands and I'm going to say it this way on purpose, nunchucks, and then the bad guys are basically taken care of, and then that's it. It's like, oh, well, okay. So this little extra plot we didn't want and didn't like is now instantly gone. Well,
yes. Also, the tuki bird flies from the heart of Africa to San Francisco in about 5 minutes.
Well, never mind. How does George get back?
Yep, he ships himself via UPS. At least there they tried to make a joke of it. The tuki bird, they just sort of go, oh, he's there now. It's like, really? You could have done something funny with that, and you did nothing.
And how does George know how to use the mail or UPS?
I don't know.
I don't care. Yeah. But at least we get a really good steamy poop joke, because...
We had several ape farting jokes.
Oh.
And elephant peeing jokes.
Yeah, my note for that was, is this Freddy got fingered too? What's going on with that? Because it's literally a fire hose of urine. Ha!
Yeah.
Which, of course, you'll remember from the original Jay Ward cartoons. There was lots of pee.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
I mean, make what you will of potty humor. To me, even this is what, 1997? It is the laziest way of going for a laugh, honestly. And by saying it's a kid's film, which I'm guessing this was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
Although there's some lines that make me think otherwise. By going for poop, that is just the laziest, lamest way of getting a reaction. And this is from somebody who loves a good fart joke. Don't get me wrong.
Yep. Oh, he does.
But I'm just like, and this is, over 20 years ago. Just know, if you see a film that's relying on that, it's because they're lazy. And if somebody wants to dispute me on that, they can. And including you, Discover Magazine. Hey, we had a cameo in here.
Oh, yeah? Who?
That's the actual mayor of San Francisco.
Oh, I wondered about that.
Yeah.
I wondered, okay.
I just don't know why. Yeah. So you mentioned a while back, because we're also going to have to get to our questions. There was a line that you said did not age well.
It doesn't age well.
So what line did you find that you didn't think?
Okay. First off, Ursula in this is an heiress. She's like, super rich, and her parents are super snooty and super white.
Yeah.
And the mother, who is played by this is another waste, the awesome Holland Taylor, who is terrific. She's great at playing, snooty white women. And she does not like George. She wants her daughter to marry Lyle. That's a big plot point because he's got a van in his name, and he's probably, I assume, very rich. And she's trying to convince George to leave. And she says, in the jungle, zebras marry zebras and leopards marry leopards. It's like, oh God, that's what the segregationists used to use. You do not see, in nature, you do not see bluebirds flying with blackbirds or blackbirds flying with bluebirds. Like,
yeah.
God.
That,
yikes. Very tone deaf.
Yeah, I had a number of other lines that got to me that were just like, what? One of them, when George is being told by Ape what a woman is, actually says, George having stirring of special feeling right now. Thankfully, we only see George from the waist up, because I have a feeling that his stirring would have sent this into at least PG-13, if not R rating.
Yeah, there are a few too many scenes of him staring at Ursula while she's asleep. Just makes it kind of creepy.
Yeah. When Ursula gets back and her mother is asking her about her health, do you have a fever? Do you have this? The mother actually says, what about your ha-ha? It's like, okay.
I think she's actually talking about her gastric issues.
No, I don't think that's what she's talking about at all. And then the last one, which is said by the father of whatever her name is, I don't care, Ursula. When the mother is trying to make her last bit of making sure that this wedding to George, or this feelings for George, doesn't go through, and runs off in a tizzy, literally just says, God, that woman's a pain in the ass. It's like, what a blunt, flat, attempted humor this late in this already blunt, flat film. But
yeah, that's one of the other problems is this movie feels it has to point the jokes out to you. Now, Jay Ward used to do that in Rocky and Bullwinkle and such, but he did it much more subtly. I mean, he actually has a character look at the camera and say, the bad guy has fallen in poop. Classic physical comedy joke. Now we all throw our heads back and laugh.
Yeah.
Like, wow, way to stomp that joke into the ground.
Yeah.
It wasn't that funny to begin with, and it was dead on arrival, and you dug it up and desecrated the corpse.
Yeah. I mean, when Boris Badenoff used to threaten the narrator, it was funny.
Yeah. Or when the narrator would be showing the lines on the screen on the map, and Boris would read them and follow them. Like, hey, you can't do that. Try stopping me. That was funny.
And here's the thing. They are trying. It's like the person who wrote the script, or people or whatever, don't actually understand humor. They can see.
I think I don't know about that, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, they can see, like with the narrator, when there's byplay with the narrator and he's pointing out the tropes we're actually using in our film, that's funny. But it's literally as if he just transcribed what I just said. It's not funny that way. You're not giving it any style.
It's like someone who watched Jay Ward, not just these, but other Jay Ward cartoons, and just didn't think they were funny.
Or they did, but they themselves aren't.
Yeah.
Because I don't. And here's the other thing, too. I guess, as I said, this is a kid's film. That's the only way I could see it would go over.
Yeah, it has to be,
I honestly think that some of this would probably appeal to little kids. Seeing him bump into trees, unfortunately, the poop jokes and the pee jokes, there's some of it I could see probably was very funny to kids, but they also try to do that also funny to adults thing, and they do it so badly that it's painful.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying, at one point, George is like trying to get romantic with Ursula in the jungle, and they're playing this weird music mix of Barry White and Mr. Lover and a couple of others, and they're singing the lyrics in Swahili, and it just doesn't work.
No. Well,
and you could see why on paper it might have, but somehow the execution just doesn't.
Well, then we get that hit single in the middle of the film, which is the most Disney thing about this film. And it's this, I don't know there's this weird song right in the middle of the stupid film, and they play it at the end, and it's got a little hint of the George theme in it too, but it's this love song montage thing that's just like, okay, this has nothing to do with the original cartoon, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and they keep trying to reprise the George of the Jungle theme in the background music, and it just feels very shoehorned in.
Yeah. I will also say that the unwanted addition of a love story makes no sense. I know that's what they hinged the plot on, but that didn't exist in the original cartoon. George seems to have never figured out what a mate actually is, which is fine because it's a cartoon.
He does call her. He calls her his mate.
Yes, but the gorilla has to tell him. It's like, Ursula. It's like, the guy who doesn't shave. Like that. Yeah. That's what mate means to him. There's no attempt at there even a hint at sex or anything, which is again fine because it's a kid's cartoon. But they just make this about a love story, and it's like, that's not what this is about. And it doesn't work. It's like, oh, let's have a love story and put on a George of the Jungle coat. Like, that's kind of what they did.
Yeah.
But we have our questions.
Yeah, let's get to those.
So, does this movie capture the feeling of its source material?
No. You know what? I'd have to say no. Even the source material is not very good, but I don't think it captures it.
I think it
It
does.
doesn't have the absurdity of it.
I think it does once in the opening credits. Now, and the funny thing
the actual
is,
cartoon.
yeah, visually they don't look anything like the cartoons for George of the Jungle, but the frenetic energy, the fun, the bounciness, they're in the credits.
I can see that. And they try. I think a couple of points they try, the swinging and some of the physical humor. But no, I don't think it does.
Does this movie respect its source material?
Oh, God, no.
No.
I don't think I think it barely acknowledges the source material. It knows the theme song and it knows the basic idea.
Well, but it rewrote that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to agree. I think that in that group of writers, you said there was at least 4. We only know 2 of them. Maybe, and it was Joel who did this or tried to. There's an attempt to use Jay Ward-style humor. Sadly, the same way that Jay Ward tried to do it in the original cartoon.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. It's just not well done. So I think there's attempts to respect it, but they just didn't understand it. Or something went drastically wrong. Or honestly, Suits. Does this movie take advantage of the fact that it's a movie and not just an episode?
Okay, there I would have to say yes, because we have multiple locations, a much larger scale, a budget, such as it is. I think so. I think it's trying to be a movie. The problem is it's trying to be a movie that has nothing to do with the TV show.
Well,
and it's not trying to be a good movie.
Maybe it's trying to be a good movie, but we can't tell. Oops.
Yeah.
The other problem is that you're trying to adapt into an hour and a half something that was originally 6 minutes long. That's it. 6 minutes.
Yep.
That's a lot of stretching, padding, and inflating.
Seriously is. I mean, with Rocky and Bullwinkle, you had multiple episode arcs.
Right.
You had stories that went on quite a while. It wasn't as hard. The idea you could use that kind of a narrative as a movie. George of the Jungle, everything was standalone, and like you say, Mike, it was 6 minutes long.
Yeah, it's a lot of stretching to do.
Yeah.
I went through pretty much all my notes. How about you?
I gotta say, I just cringed in the last shot where they're doing the Lion King parody. George is oh God, he's holding up his son to the animals. Like, oh come on!
Yeah.
This is out of
Max,
nowhere.
could I have you redo that again as Grunkle Stan?
Excuse me. Sure. Oh, come on!
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, shout out to Gravity Falls, folks.
Yeah.
And how about the little tag thing with the ape in Vegas? Apparently, they took a little throwaway joke, the idea that the poachers want the talking ape, they're going to take him to Vegas and set up as an act. And that's what happens. He goes to Vegas and is on stage singing My Way with Showgirls.
Which immediately made me think of Showgirls.
Yeah, oh, Lord.
Now, wait, how much better would that movie have been if there had been an animatronic ape in it?
You mean if Nomi had been played by a monkey? Yeah. She kind of was. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sure Elizabeth Berkley is a perfectly nice person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for my notes. We should get to the wrap-up.
So that's all I got.
So people can find out what we thought of this.
Ooh, this will be such a surprise.
The Roundup. So, Max.
Yeah.
Had you seen George of the Jungle when it came out?
No, I saw it on VHS, I think, not that long after it came out.
Why?
I was at a friend's house. They had rented it.
I'm going to go with why.
I thought I had vague memories of enjoying the cartoon.
Okay.
I thought, hey, this could be funny. Hey, it's Disney, and, it's George of the Jungle, and I love the theme song.
And?
I remember thinking, oh, this is harmless, and then I forgot most of it. And I apparently really forgot most of it when I thought about watching it again, because I thought, oh, I think I remember that being kind of dumb but fun. I got half that right.
Should I ask you?
And it was the wrong. It was the wrong half.
The back end, perhaps.
Yeah. What about you? Did you see this when it came out? Had you ever seen this?
No. No, abs or no abs. I had not seen this. So this is a film where every bit of the machinery of Hollywood is visible and right on the screen. You can smell the committee meetings. You can smell the focus groups. You can smell the too many hands on the script. You can you can tell where the pacings is. And unfortunately, it's more like it gives you something to count down till you get to the end of the film. You can feel this is a suit film. This is a film made by suits. I'm sorry to whoever originally wrote it, and maybe it was somebody who was frustrated because they originally wrote something really fun, and this is what we got. But this is a film that everything about it feels this is how Hollywood loved to make films and wants people to accept them.
Yeah.
None of it made me laugh. Not even in a childlike bit of glee, haha, fart joke. They made fart jokes unfunny, which is not easy to do for me because
That's a challenge.
I sometimes laugh just when I do it myself, which is the saddest thing ever, but it's true. I didn't feel any of the Jay Wardiness except in the narration, and points of it approached that. They almost hit their mark. It came
close. It got so close, but it did not make it.
No. And it's like, the idea of pointing out the tropes you're about to reuse or mishandle can be funny. Just not here. What amazes me is how many people went to see this film.
It's amazing this thing was so successful.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of was there were no other kids' films that summer, and that happens sometimes.
That happens.
Like, a Pixar film gets pushed back, or a Disney film has to go through more development, and it's like, well, we have this. And that's what this feels like. Well, we have this. This is the apocryphal this. So not my favorite of the films we've watched so far.
Did not work.
But hey, Max, would you do us a favor?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
So yes, I will. Then now we've established that. Yes, I shall reiterate the poll question for next week, which is: what fictional cinematic character would you most like to have a conversation with, say over lunch or drinks? And you can answer this question either by going to our website, maxmikemovies.com, and leaving a comment. You can email us directly for double the bumpy bucks at us@maxmikemovies.com.
Double.
You can also twaddle us on Twaddler or whatever it's called, or book us faces on the booking face thing.
That sounds disgusting.
Booking face? Okay.
Please don't twaddle us.
Don't do twaddle us. We love being twaddled.
Makes me feel like showgirls.
Under Max Mike Movies. And, of course, you can listen to us on your favorite podcast app, or even the podcast app you loathe and despise from the depths of your being. But next week, there'll be a whole other movie, because there are other movies. That's the one thing that keeps me going through this movie. The knowledge that someday there will be another one.
And what's that movie, Max?
To watch?
What's that movie?
Oh, well, it's your turn.
You forgot to ask me, didn't you?
It's your turn. Nope, I was just waiting. So it's your turn to choose, you load. What do you got?
You usually ask me before the show, but that's fine. So you have
because you don't. Yes, because I've learned you don't tell me. I want it to be a surprise. So I thought I'd let you have that.
There was just that week where I literally could not decide, and thankfully for our audience, I edited that part out at the end where I was like, next week. Yeah. So we're continuing with the 60s, which is quite honestly a really interesting time for TV. There was a lot of chances taken and a really wide variety of genres depicted on the tiny screen. Now, we're seeing that now, but it's basically because now anybody can have a TV channel. I know. I have one.
Yes, he does.
Nobody watches
the movie
it. But
Rich. Check it out on YouTube.
Yeah. And it's a show that actually I've never watched. And even though there's enough episodes for it to have been in syndication, for some reason, at least for me growing up, I never remember seeing it on our local UHS station. But I did see the adapted, made for big screen Love You version that came out a few years ago. And so I'd like to revisit a certain man, if you will, just a certain man. He comes from a certain place. He comes from Uncle. And if you too would like to know what Uncle stands for, you can join us next week where we will make something up, mangle it, or otherwise misquote the meaning of Uncle.
Warning, spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead.